If I could turn back time. If I hold this here, does this look like it's my face? Do I look like Cher now? Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stager YouTube channel. If you are seeing my face for the first time, hello! My name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. I am an independent theatre critic and a content creator based here in the UK, and this is my YouTube channel where I review shows that I've been invited to go and see, and I talk about news and drama and all things stagey, all things theatre. If that sounds like the kind of thing that you would like to watch on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I have so much content coming out right now, it's honestly ridiculous. Today, I'm going to be reviewing a show that has been touring the UK as part of its European premiere. It was a fan favourite on Broadway that has just made its way across the Atlantic. I'm talking about the CHER Show. I'm going to try and do that again without doing an accent. I'm talking about the CHER Show. See, now it just sounds too British. The CHER Show. I don't know why I try, honestly. When I tell you I was so excited to get the invitation to go and review this at the New Victoria Theatre in Woking, it was honestly a highlight of my year. I was in Disneyland Paris at the exact time I got this email, and I was like, I don't care where we are, Aaron, stop everything we are doing. I need to RSVP to the CHER Show. And so I had really high hopes for this. I was seeing it as part of my birthday week of celebrations. It's a thing, don't at me. And I was just really looking forward to having a gay old time. As it happens, I feel like maybe the show had been overhyped to me. I don't know. Maybe my expectations were too big, but I came away from it a little bit disappointed. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you why that is. Just before I get to the review, if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to give me a super thanks down below. It really helps me as a stagey content creator. Also, if you enjoy my content, feel free to head over to Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, where I am at Mickey Joe Theatre, and I make plenty of content for those platforms as well. So I've seen a lot of jukebox shows recently. Specifically at this venue, I've seen a lot of jukebox shows. I was reminded of the Osmonds, which toured at the same venue earlier this year. And it's another biopic jukebox musical, charting the success of a band over a period of time. You know, the financial lows, the emotional trials of it all. That was not dissimilar structurally to this particular show. And so it just kind of invites a certain amount of comparison. I ended up giving the Osmonds a 4-star review, and I would say the same thing about the CHER Show. I think the quality of its material is still very strong. The performances are definitely what carry it through to a 4-star rather than a 3, which it occasionally teetered onto. And it ends very well, which is always important. You know, you leave the theatre having been uplifted and with a very entertaining ending to the show. That's a good thing. That's a very important thing. But in so many ways, it could have been stronger. And I'm going to try and articulate why that was. So I think the issues with this show, with this particular production of the show, I should say, come under a few subcategories. As a general overview, this is a different production of the show to Broadway. It has undergone various changes. It has been reduced in some ways aesthetically. This is a discernibly cheaper version of the show. The score has also been rearranged, reconfigured. There are a handful of differences, not necessarily with the song list, but with the way that the same songs that featured in the Broadway version of the show are being interpreted and are being utilised in this version. I believe even since a month ago, the show has undergone some changes. There was a number that Danielle used to sing that has apparently been cut. I only know about this through social media. This is my first time seeing the show. And I did not see the show on Broadway, so a lot of my understanding of the changes is based purely on my listening to the cast recordings. So if that is not actually indicative of what the Broadway show was, then I am talking complete nonsense. But there are certainly a number of differences between that recording and the way that the show is now being performed. So this reconfiguration, rearrangement of the CHER songs and the utilization of music in the show is my first big bullet point here. Generally speaking, the issue I had is that none of the songs felt particularly consequential. Even the really big numbers, the ones that should have been so impactful, your Believes, your If I Could Turn Back Times, your Strong Enoughs, you know, the really big hitter Cher songs, they just weren't given the status that they deserved. If you think about other jukebox musicals, your Mamma Mia's, your We Will Rock You's, when you have those big numbers, they are a moment in the show. They know to give them this space and to give them this introduction and the power, and they just deliver them and they hammer them. All of the songs in the CHER Show kind of faded in, not literally, but in terms of their energy level. It was a slow entrance into the song and they kind of faded out. There were very few actual buttons for the audience to know when to applaud. So you go through a lot of the show without much applause, unless you have a bold enough audience that are loving it so much that they are willing to applaud over a dialogue or over a weird fade out of a song just because the performance was so great. At one point, the audience tried to applaud Danielle Steers' performance, but it was so oddly arranged that it was impossible. And this lack of applause throughout a jukebox show like this feels very odd, and it creates a low energy level in the audience, which is not what you want for this kind of an evening at the theatre. One thing I do really love about jukebox musicals is the chance to take well-known songs and adapt them in a more theatrical way, and I think there was more of that in the Broadway version of the cast recording, where there were other Cher songs sung by characters that weren't Cher. You didn't get as much of that in this one. More of them seem to be returned to Cher. I prefer the version of Dark Lady where it was the two male love interests singing it as a duet. In this version, it was Cher and Sonny singing it together with occasional interruptions by Greg. But I did miss the male duet version of that song. I thought it was more impactful having listened to it. Also, Heart of Stone is no longer sung by Lucille Ball because Lucille Ball does not feature at all in the UK version of the CHER Show. Whether they thought that was a reference that wouldn't translate over here, I do not know. Similarly, the song All I Ever Need Is You, that used to be a duet between Cher and her mother, Georgia Holt, that is now a duet between Cher and Sonny. Her mother sings a little reprise of, I believe, Heart of Stone at the end of the show. Heart of Stone is also sung by Cher as a solo song. This kind of leads me to my other issue with the music, is that everything gets reprised in little snippets very often. We get 30-second segments of Cher songs many, many times. You'll hear the same melodies over and over and over. The number of times that we had Song for the Lonely was a lot, and I like the music coming back, and I like it being used to echo emotional themes in the plot. I much prefer that to a show that will just sing the song in context and not utilize its music to try and convey something emotionally. Shows like Jersey Boys, shows like The Osmonds, where the songs are only ever performed within the context of historical performances. I like that it expanded on that and it used those lyrics to articulate feelings within the narrative. However, I feel like it did it too many times and we just kept using snippets of songs. It made the songs feel inconsequential because it's like, when are we getting a full performance? When is it just a snippet as part of a scene? You never really knew when you were going to get an entire standalone Cher song, and it felt like there were relatively few of them, even though there probably weren't. Also, the finale from the CHER Show on the cast recording is one of my absolute favourite things. The version of the finale that we had here was very split up. Whether that's how it's always been done live and the version for the recording is different, I do not know. I did not see the show on Broadway, but I did miss that version. I think it's a really great Cher mega mix of songs, and it was weird having a version that was more just like snippets of things at a time with little applause breaks. My other big issue with this was direction. Now, it's directed by Arlene Phillips, the legendary Arlene Phillips. And I do like the structure of the show. I do like that it tries to frame it slightly differently. We meet Cher rehearsing for a show of some description. She sees visions of her younger selves, and she begins to relive moments from her past. Now, the direction is kind of half and half in terms of keeping this context and in terms of abandoning it, because in some moments, they use things that would be found on that rehearsal set to represent scenery and to represent set pieces, and I like that very much. In other moments, they will just bring in an entire sofa, like it doesn't really matter where we are still trying to create a set like it's a normal musical. I think what I would like is one or the other. Either the show is coming to life within this soundstage that she is seeing, and everything around her is being used to tell the story, or we're just being transported completely to these locations, in which case I needed more scenery because she's had a very colourful life. She's toured around the world. I did not get a sense of that because we just got the occasional sofa. I did really like the way that all of the different years were incorporated into the scenery. I loved that, but I thought we needed more backdrops if we were going to just transport to completely different locations over and over, because the one set that we did have was just full of grey duffel bags, which I get it, she's got a lot of clothes. We were in a kind of a warehouse of Cher things, a Cher house, if you will, and I will. But it just looked a little bit ugly. Like, of all of Cher's glorious glittery glitzy costumes, just to see grey duffel bags is not particularly fun or camp, and I wanted it to be fun and camp. I mean, it's Cher, for crying out loud. A couple of moments where I thought the direction fell short of achieving something really fun, and this also has to do with the writing of the show and not necessarily just this creative team's interpretation. So there's a moment at the beginning of the show where Cher starts to sing If I Could Turn Back Time, and a few lines before she'd said something to the effect of If only I could actually turn back time, and then she starts singing the song a few lines later. What would be fun and camp and give the song more status and make it more of a moment and make the audience go, haha, this is fun, is if she would have said, if only, and then someone had said to her, one of the other Chers, if only what? And she'd said, if I could turn back time, and just go into the song like that, rather than telling us the joke ahead of time. Or not even making it a joke, just kind of trying to justify why the song is about to happen. It's jukebox, you don't always need to do that so heavy-handedly. Another moment, now I did like the way they swap between characters. That's what makes the CHER Show kind of set apart from the other jukeboxes. I like that they have 3 different actresses playing Cher. Not necessarily at like set different times throughout her life, but more set different emotional places. You know, you have one getting to portray the youth and the naivety. You then have another actress who gets to play the following romantic years and a lot of the difficulties with that first relationship. You then have a final Cher who gets to play sort of the end product of all of this life experience. So they each bring different things to the stage and they react to other things in different ways because they know more by the time you get to the older Chers. I liked the way that was used. There was a real richness to their responses to different things happening, but there were also some missed opportunities. There was a part where Sunny is talking to Debbie Kurup's Cher and trying to win her back, and Danielle Steers is the Cher who had divorced him because she had been treated very badly by him. Millie O'Connell is the Cher who first fell in love with him. So Millie is watching on hopefully and watching on sort of with love towards him. Danielle Steers is taken aback by this and appalled and walks dramatically upstage and steps onto a step unit and turns her back on the whole situation, and Debbie starts to sing Strong Enough to him. And I think this was a missed opportunity where Danielle, who is the Cher who is trapped in that place of resentment and upset, she could start to sing Strong Enough while watching the situation, because what's happening here is that Debbie, when confronted by this and her reality of being Cher and this happening to her in this moment, it's that memory that causes her to react that way. And so Danielle should speak as that part of her. She should sing the song. That's how this should be used. I think if you're going to have these Chers that echo these parts of her and these sides of her and these perspectives, they could be used more cleverly. Kind of like the Ghosts in Follies. And also, the more Danielle Steers sings in a show, the better. She does later get some more of the thrust in that number. I just wish that she could be the one to start it. Another issue I had with the show is it just wasn't super fun. Now, if I compared this earlier with The Osmonds is a show that I think puts a very shiny veneer on the life of the Osmonds because it is written by one of the Osmonds. So, you know, not going to expose all of the dark and gritty realities of that time. It's a very sort of peppy, fun, weren't we talented and fantastic, everybody loved us. Oops, we're broke, but it's fine, I fixed it. That's the story of the Osmonds musical. It's very positive spin. The CHER Show kind of seems to do the other extreme, where it really indulges in the drudgery of it all, where even when things are going well for Cher, it is seconds before something is going badly again. And I appreciate Cher has gone through a lot in her life, but there is definitely rise and fall to her circumstances, and there is light and shade, and we just don't get to enjoy much of the light. We don't get a lot of like camp, light-hearted, fun, diva energy. She's just very like persecuted, put upon, struggling Cher for most of the show, which is not what the audience have come to see. I feel like I almost didn't even get my Cher fix at this show. You have to find a way to satisfy the Cher fans, and I'm not convinced this does that as fully as some people might be expecting. Especially the people who have come thinking they're about to actually see Cher, which has happened. If you call your show the CHER Show, you have to expect that that is a possibility. And I think some of the problem of this might be the aesthetics. When you think of Cher, it's some of these iconic visuals, you know? It kind of sucks that we talk about all of these film roles and we don't get to see any references to them or any snippets from them, and it's difficult that we don't get her iconic outfits. Now, I said that this was a cheaper version of the show, as well as there being very few sort of different set pieces. They have not imported Bob Mackey's costumes. They have not replicated them. They have not, I presume, paid for them. Which is an interesting idea, that these costumes have, you know, a copyright and a licensing status of their own, that Bob Mackey's work would also have to be paid for, I am assuming. I don't know much about that world. But the Broadway production utilised Bob Mackey's costumes, and this production utilises costumes designed by Gabriella Slade, who does a very, very good job of trying to replicate that style. It is still obviously Cher. You have the essence of Cher, while it not being replica costumes. Gabriella Slade is the recently Tony Award-winning costume designer of Six, FYI. But there is at least one moment in the show where we're meant to see a specific Bob Mackie costume, the outfit that Cher wore to present an award at the Oscars, and we see a different, not dissimilar, but different outfit that Debbie Kurup is wearing. And when you have a Bob Mackie character on stage, it feels odd to then not have those costumes. It feels like that would have needed to have been reworked to justify not using them. It's a very odd choice. We also have 3 Chers and we only ever get one hair colour. She has black hair throughout, and Cher has rocked a bunch of different hair looks, and we only really get like long straight hair Cher for most of it and the occasional curly hair moment. They have white wigs as well in the finale, but don't even at me. We don't have blonde Cher once. I'm sorry, but that could have been put in. You could chuck me a blonde Cher. I mean, if I'm being sensible, I am aware that that's kind of her like post-Believe era, and most of the show takes place in the run-up to that, but still, I'm mad about it. I want variety in my Cher hair. Now, these performances I am very happy to talk about because they are fantastic. I was so excited when this casting came out, and for some of them I was like, oh, that's obvious, fantastic Cher, and for others I was just so intrigued. For example, Millie O'Connell. I was not instantly convinced of her as a Cher. I hadn't seen it. I was like, I cannot wait to see what that's going to be, but I believed in Millie because Millie brings so much energy to every performance that she does. She is a firecracker as a performer and as a person. She is always at 110%. She is the Duracell bunny of musical theatre performance. And not only was I completely convinced of the Cher energy that she brings to this performance, but she was actually my favourite. She blew me away with this. In the first act, when she is playing young Cher, she is so endearing. When she is growing in her confidence and falling in love, she is completely charming. She does everything she needs you to get you invested in Cher as a character in this show. When she gets to dance and deliver vocals as well, it's the best I've ever heard her sound in a production, and the way she dances on stage is just so magnetic, so mesmerizing. She is such a committed and talented performer. Danielle Steers then takes over from her and has some wonderful lines. She gets to be slightly sarcastic and humorous Cher and gets to play a lot of the more emotionally wrought scenes, and every time she sings, it is just joyous, especially when she gets a reprise of, I believe it's Song for the Lonely. I can't remember, it may be something else, but it's slightly lower and it's so perfectly in her range and so tailored to her fantastic, incredibly unique voice. Finally, we have Debbie Kurup, the legend, the icon. She is a veteran performer of the UK stage and she is phenomenally talented. She makes an excellent Cher. The way she leads this production, I love her in this role. I think she's fantastic. All 3 of them are fantastic and work very well together. Some others in the supporting cast that I want to mention as well. Lucas Rush plays Sonny and is brilliant in this role. I think there's some areas where Sonny's character is not written particularly consistently, where he's just this really nice, charming guy. and then sort of instantly becomes kind of a dirtbag, but then comes back and is then a ghost, and it's an inconsistent character in the script for sure, but Lucas Rush gives a very strong performance. And Tori Scott as Georgia has a moment every single time that she is on stage. She's playing Georgia, who is Cher's mother. She is this wonderful, incredibly warm presence. I love when she sings. Everything she does is just memorable and has this kind of status to it. She's so believably maternal and in control and dominant as this character and this force in Cher's life, which when you're trying to contend with a diva personality presence like Cher as a character is a really impressive thing to be able to do, that you can kind of emerge as this dominant maternal presence over her. In terms of the defining moments of this show, the whole finale sequence is really fun. When the three of them get to sing together at any moment, that's very fun. It happens at the end of the first act. It happens again in the second when they sing You Haven't Seen the Last of Me. And just from a dramatic perspective, I do really enjoy the song Strong Enough. It's also one of my favourite Cher songs, but the way it's kind of shared between the three of them on stage and they alternate the melody, I think that's very well structured and very well directed in this version. I should say I do also very much enjoy Oti Mabuse's choreography throughout. There's a particular move that the ensemble do when they're beginning to hype up Believe. You see it at the beginning of the show and then again at the end. I enjoy that very much. It's the talent and the performances in this show that make it very easy to recommend to anyone. Obviously, if you're a Cher fan, there is lots to enjoy about this show. You're going to enjoy the music. It is really nice to hear it readapted for a more theatrical context. If you've been a fan of those kind of music biopic shows like Jersey Boys, like The Osmonds, like Beautiful, the Carole King musical, that's the one that this feels the closest to stylistically. If you liked any of those, you should absolutely go and see the CHER Show. If you're a fan of any of these performers, they are so well showcased here. Go and see Millie, go and see Danielle, go and see Debbie. They are crushing it in these roles. And that was my review of the CHER Show. I did have a fun time. I have various criticisms of the production. These are only ways in which I think it could serve its material even better and excel to an even higher degree, because like I said, the performances are fantastic. There's an undeniable fun factor and it leaves the audience in a really great place. If you have already seen the show on tour, because we are quite the way through the tour now, let me know your thoughts about the CHER Show down in the comments section. If you saw an earlier version of the show, or if you saw the Broadway version of the show, let me know the differences from my description and we can find out what that version might have been like and what the changes might have been. Between us, we can piece it all together. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stager YouTube channel for plenty more reviews and other theatrical content coming very soon. Also, feel free to give me a super thanks down below. That would really help me as a Stager content creator. Or you can go to patreon.com/MickeyJoeTheatre, where you can support me and gain access to some exclusive photo and video content. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day. Whoa! I should never be allowed to do that again. That's not good. For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!